Life in Letters.
The presenting sponsor of My Life in Letters is sprayplanet.com. This is where you go to get everything MTN colors, be it 94, hardcore, whatever it is, go check them out. They're also the distributor of Crink products, Posca markers, and Grog inks. So go check out sprayplanet.com right now, order something, and go make your mark. But without further ado, let's get into this next episode. My Life in Letters. We are back and on the phone today from Los Angeles, California. I think you're in LA. Are you in LA, dude?
I'm in LA, but I live out in the suburbs of Los Angeles.
Okay, well, we're like real honored, man. And like for me personally, to have a man like you on the podcast, it means a lot because I grew up seeing a lot of your work. Anger from CBS, the Can't Be Stopped crew, Mayhem crew, and you got that Graffiti Wolves project that you're working on. We're blessed, dude, and honored to have you on the phone. So thank you for taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, it is morning for you too. It's 8 a.m. on the West Coast. For those of you listening, know that Anger gets his work done early, and I appreciate that, man.
I just got back from Bakersfield. I was up there on just my regular, what I do for regular work. Mm-hmm. And I was up there for about 2 months, and my roommate that I had, who's actually a writer, and every morning I would wake up maybe like 3:30. I got to be to work at 6. And he would just he's like, man, you banging the pots and all that stuff. But he would wake up and he's like, man, I don't get up early. Like you always get up early. You inspire me to get up early and, get shit done. And dude, I eat my breakfast, I exercise, and I'm like, man.
And people that get up early they're so productive, man. So that's what it's all about, man. And so again, thank you, because I know it's early, but we were talking before the interview about your early memories of the impact of letter, or the power of it, the utility, and I wonder if you have a story or some kind of a memory that you can tell us about.
Well, I guess before I found graffiti, my inspiration for art and to have a view of the world through an artist's eyes would be through my grandfather, who was his name was Earl B. Anderson. He passed away a couple years ago, and he was a great artist all the way around. I mean, he lived his whole life, all of the 90 years, teaching art, learning art. He would go down to Mexico and there's a couple different, artist enclaves down there that he would be part of. Mm-hmm. He would go, he lived in Montana. He would go and, teach art to schools later on in his life. Like when he was already hunched over and 80 years old, he was still teaching art for free because he felt like that's unfair. You can't not give kids a chance to learn art. You know what I mean? It's that important. It was that important to him. He found it when he was a kid. He fell in love with aviation, and he became an aviation artist throughout his whole life. And so me growing up, I was born in Juneau, Alaska, and I didn't really have my dad around. So I had him as my superhero, and he, amongst him being able to have great artistry of planes and backgrounds or landscapes and all that type of stuff, I just remember his penmanship. I was amazed by his penmanship and how he wrote, and he didn't have I think everything was just big, bold, capital letters, but it was so beautiful, eloquently put across the board. And when he would write me letters as I was growing up, because as I lived, I was born in Juneau, Alaska. I moved to a bunch of different places, and so he would always catch up to me through letters. And that back then, and that's how you got in touch with people. Sure. And so you would kind of feel like, I guess he would always give me a good feeling because his writing would make me feel like home. I remember taking off to go to school in India. I think I was 9 years old when I went out to school there, and I ended up.
Did you say India?
Yeah, in India. I lived out there for about 4 years of my life.
Where?
From
Where in India were you?
Up in the Himalayas.
Wow.
Yeah, up near
Like past
the northern,
like
Varanasi? Yeah, the northern part of India,
okay.
Almost like where Tibet is.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically, I grew up in a Sikh religion, and that's what took me out to that area, and
that's awesome. And I'm like really interested because I've traveled to India, and one of the things that caught my eye, and we're going to jump around a little bit here, but what caught my eye in India was all the sign painting that I saw all throughout that, throughout the country. And so I wonder, so what years did you go to India? Or what grade?
I gotta say, I think I went out there in 81. And then I stayed out there for about 4 years.
Okay, 80.
So I think I ended up
to 85, roughly.
Ish. It might have been into 86-ish, because then I went back to school in New Mexico for a second, and then I moved out to LA in I would say 87-ish. Yeah, or 86-ish, 87-ish.
We'll go back to this, but you said that you started writing graph around 87 when you got to LA. Is that correct? Okay. And so also, what year were you born, if you can tell us?
I was born in 1972.
So 72. Okay. Yeah. So you were roughly 15 when you started doing graffiti. I want to go back because I'm really interested in Grandpa Earl. I'm not going to, that's too familiar, but
actually we can just call him Grandpa. His name was Grandpa Tigger.
Grandpa Tigger. Great.
Grandpa Tigger. Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear this. First of all, some of our listeners are so young, they may not know what a handwritten letter is. That's for real too, by the way. Literally people don't write letters, and there's a whole generation that don't know what they are. And so getting those letters, though, I could hear it in your voice. It was an emotional thing. And it's you know, getting that and the power of reading words like that is something that should not be forgotten. I don't want to just gloss over it either. I'm also really interested in his aviation art. And I'm guessing if he died recently at 90, he was obviously, potentially was he in World War II?
He was actually not. I don't think he actually saw any action.
He didn't serve.
And but he definitely actually. I was helping my mom move, and I came across his. I don't know if you'd call them dog tags. I don't know if that's the right term for him, but it was a tag that showed his military. It was a metal tag, and I guess I would say it was a dog tag.
Yeah, so he did serve. So he was in the military in some way.
Yes, he was in the military. I'm just saying I don't think he saw firefighting. Okay, you know what I mean? I don't think he shot.
And the only reason I brought it up was because their generation, the plane was such a big deal, right? Because it was still kind of new, and it was really high tech, and and there were those guys that flew those planes were put on pedestals, so everybody was really into it. And what I was going to ask was was he artistic before doing sort of aviation drawings? And if so, where do you think he got that from? You said he went to these enclaves in Mexico.
From what I understand, when he was a kid, as soon as he picked up a pencil, he could draw. It wasn't even a question. And even my older son Logan, he carries the same gene. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For me, my tributary went off into graffiti so far. I think it was hard to kind of train my mind. So I definitely see strains of him in my son. Mm-hmm. And going back to what I was talking about when I went to India and I got those letters from him, and he used to put, eloquent words with eloquent writing, and then right up at the top he would put he was known to put these birds, if you're looking at a sunset, you know what I mean? He would show the sunset, the clouds, the birds flying, and some little mountains, and that would be his own way of doing his own cards, his own
awesome
card stock.
Yeah, that's cool. So he was kind of illustrating the letters in a way as well.
Right. So when I went to India and I was out there, kind of pretty much on my own, I was with my sister, but kind of running amok, I would get his letters and admire them, and then kind of interestingly enough I tried to emulate them, but then what I threw into it was I started making these little books, and what I would do is I would take paper and I would cut it down and then make tiny little books, little piece books almost, and then I would write stories inside of them and try to emulate his writing and do the print style writing and be his. I didn't realize that he had. Later on, I figured out that he would put lines going across, subtle pencil lines that it would be his guidelines. Because I was like, how does he get them so straight? Because he must have erased them. But for me, I was like, wow, he has the best penmanship and he writes so straight. So I would try to write super straight, and my lines would always stray, and it was always a game of perfection to try to emulate what Grandpa was doing. Yeah, he's a great dude. He really, one of the words that I will always ring in my head that he said was, you need to get more patience. If you're going to get through life, you have to have more patience.
Yeah. And that's actually an interesting, just word for artists. And I talk to a lot of young writers and nowadays, and they don't have patience. They just want to jump into a wild style. And I'm like, yo, get your straight letters. You got to get a block letter before you can do something funky. So, okay. And so that's just interesting. And, and I'm going to go back to India because I think, you were there at a really influential time. You're about 9 years old, if I can do the math, when you get there, which I know for me personally, 9 years old was when I really was like, oh, I know who Adam is. I became my personality was really getting set. And you're there at that time, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. During those years, because we had mentioned the sign painting in India, but you were also so close to China, and you were raised in a Sikh community, which I think that's fascinating, man. So were you learning Hindi or other languages while you were there?
I was, I knew a little bit of Hindi, a little bit of Punjabi. I knew enough to kind of communicate with the Indian friends that I had formulated, relationships with and stuff like that.
And what about learning to write those languages? Were you being taught in school? Nice.
Yeah. No, I could. Some of the letters I can still execute. I wouldn't know what it is, but I can still execute it.
So it's the kind of thing that you didn't continue to study or to use in your life. So you, in a way, it kind of got rusty on you.
Yeah, you know what? It was my mom's gig. She wanted to be a Sikh.
So this was not by lineage. Your mom couldn't.
No,
I see.
No, I think I guess I was a product of the 60s and 70s, and like a lot of those times there was, moms and dads that were exploring their place in the universe, and I think a lot of things got lost in translation back then.
Sure.
And it left a lot of kids just kind of waiting for pops to show up, or nobody had. My mom was always trying to figure out how she could raise two kids. She was a wonderful woman. She actually took on my sister as my half sister, right? And I never knew what my mom had done until I lived in India, and I was there, and we were taking a rickshaw, and we were taking it from the little town of Mussoorie back over to the school where I went to school, which was called Guru Nanak Fifth Centenary. And I always had a sister. As long as I was in this world, I had my sister. Her name was Fairweather. We were named after two mountains up in Juneau, and she was just like, hey, this is my sister. But then all of a sudden, when I was 10-ish, maybe 11-ish, my mom told me she's your half sister. She's not your real sister. Wow. she's not my daughter. And I was like, what do you mean she's not your daughter? But I'm your son, right? And she's like, yeah, you're my son. You are Ike's son, and Ike had her with another woman. And I was like, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
And and then later on in life realized that my mom in her place, finding her place in this universe, was taking in this young lady that wasn't being looked after by my dad, being looked after by her mom. You know what I mean? So she was just like, hey, you're here, and I got to take care of you because that's my duty as a woman on this earth to reach out. Right. So she had reached out, and she basically the state of Alaska gave her permission to be her guardian. You know what I mean? Her and her legal parent eventually.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that was one of my trippy stories that I grew up with. Like, just like when you think life is, like you said, well, Adam's figuring it out. And I was like, oh, well, Eli's figuring it out. But
then you get a curveball.
All of a sudden, everything switched on me.
Yeah.
And also, like, personality-wise, things switched on me. Like, I grew up, my name was Elias White Crow, right? That's my, Elias Seneca White Crow was the name I'm given, But like when I was 4 years old and my mom decided to join this religion called Sikhism through yoga and being a hippie, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden she's like, no, your name's Siri Singh Khalsa. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean? She's like, yeah, and your sister's name is Siri Kaur Khalsa and her name was Fairweather before. And I was like, huh? Scratching my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but what's so cool about that
on?
is like how many identities you could have had at any given time. Changing names, including then choosing a graffiti name, which we'll get to in a little bit. But that's really interesting, man. And it must have been a curveball. Right. Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like a setup for later on in life where I would assume another identity as writers, as writers do, as artists do. We can accost a word and create energy behind that word and create, you know what I mean? As long as you're willing to put yourself out there in a certain type of way, you can create a whole new superhero or supervillain if that's your choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm interested how long from when you changed from Elias White Crow to Siri Khalsa. How long were you Siri Khalsa? Was it just during the time that you were in India, or did you continue to use that name?
I'm still Siri today. My wife calls me Siri. You know what I mean?
And last name legally, are you Khalsa?
No, I'm not Khalsa legally.
I see. Okay.
My name always stayed White Crow.
Okay.
And but people, because I was, even when I got into writing, this is obviously way before Steve Jobs came out with the app called Siri.
Yeah.
Me and my sister and a lot of other people in the world, not a lot, but people that were in this religion knew Siri as a name common to our religion.
Sure.
You'd have Siri Singh, Siri Narankar.
Yeah, of course.
All kind of different names mixed up out there, with Siri involved in it. Mm-hmm. So then, later on in life, as I became something else, the graffiti name that I became, it was always kind of like multiple personalities. Like, okay, well, on my, California ID, this is this, and then when people socially get to know me, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, what's up, Siri? That's kind of where people, if you're a really good friend of mine, I guess, kind of, me as Siri. You know what I mean? If we hang out and be social and you call me a lot, you'll probably call me Siri.
Okay.
But professionally, like in my day-to-day job, people call me Elias all the time, and I perk up and I'm like, hey, what's up?
Okay, interesting, man. So you got all kinds of names. You got all types.
Sure. Sure.
And so since you mentioned it, let's just get into that. So you leave northern India and move directly to LA, is that right? Or you said you went to New Mexico first.
Yeah, I had moved down to Alaska. I moved down from Alaska to New Mexico before I went to India.
And that makes sense. There's a huge Sikh community in like Santa Fe area, right?
Correct. Out in Espanola. Correct.
Espanola.
And Santa Fe and Albuquerque. I mean, that whole area is kind of notoriously Sikh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have friends in that community, so that's the only reason I know that stuff. So anyway, so you go to New Mexico, Espanola.
And I ran into your boy up in Colorado, Mr. Mike Giant, and he's very well versed in the Sikh community.
Yeah,
we always
Albuquerque local. Yeah, exactly.
Correct. Yeah. So he actually, him and my mom got along more so than me and him got to talk and stuff, because him and my mom were he's like into Buddhism, and my mom's a practicing Buddhist.
Nice.
So they were just sitting there chatting it up, and I was like, cool, nice to see you, Mike.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had already had some ties in New Mexico before India, and then you went back there after those years. And so then when did you get to LA? Did you say it was 87?
Yeah, I probably got to LA right around 80, between 86, 87 ish.
And I just gotta wonder, like, what kind of a culture shock that could have been coming. I mean, so far you've mentioned places like Juneau, Espanola, and northern India. None of those have the urban quality that LA does, and the density probably of people. I'm guessing that was the most densely populated community you would move to.
Oh, for sure.
What were your thoughts, like early LA memories from 87 when you got there?
I mean, it was definitely a drastic change. Mm-hmm. I had come to LA to visit my mom, I think once from India. I came to LA for we did like a winter vacation, which was like 3 months. Okay. So I came out to LA, and I think that's when I actually met Axis from CBS. We skated a little bit, and then
so what year would have that been?
I want to say maybe like 84-ish.
Okay. And you just met around there randomly skating at a park?
Well, he lived there's a ashram. If anybody knows LA, there's an ashram in the Robertson Pico area. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he and Axis lived literally right across the street from the ashram. Mm. So when I had picked up skating out in India, I came back to America. I was skating the curb right in front of his house,
Nice. Wow,
so he was
that's like some fate right there,
Right. And he was, what was really cool about him is he didn't because he lived right there. He saw the Sikhs all the time, and he had, interacted with them, and he didn't really judge. And I think at that time in our society, people really judged a lot in the 80s. You know what I mean?
They still do. And it's like,
they still do. And judging is just a way of not understanding. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Because when people confuse a Sikh for a Muslim, it's like, oh my gosh, come on. It's 2017.
You don't understand. Correct. Yeah. It's like just saying somebody's Mexican, and it's like, wait, there's 6 different races in that room right there. They're all Mexicans. No, there's Guatemalans. There's,
exactly.
You know what I mean? We can't start doing that.
No, totally. But so Axis didn't judge, and so you guys we were friends.
We hooked back up when I got back, when I moved to LA after going back to New Mexico for a second, and then
I'm just curious, when you met Axis in '84, was he Axis or was he just kid skateboarding?
I think he was writing Scribbler.
Nice.
He wrote a couple different names, I think. I don't think he was Axis right away.
Do you remember getting introduced to him at that first time as Scribbler, or did he just say, "Hey, I'm Joe," and you're like,
no, alias? I think the graffiti thing came later on, not in like '84. That was just like a skating, kind of interaction.
Okay.
Yeah. And then later on, I just remember him, we were skating and he was into doing graph and stuff like that.
So when you came back to LA officially in '87, was Axis like one of the first guys you went to go dig up because you're like, well, I have that one friend. I'm gonna go see if he's still there.
Yes, correct. And then also, I mean, he introduced me initially to graffiti, but graffiti was everywhere at that point in LA, even in my backyard, like where I walked out to take the trash out. Mm-hmm. It was where a yard was. You know what I mean?
Cool.
And there were
so talk about that because I'm really, I know our listeners are interested too in just if you could paint a picture of Los Angeles in 1987 graph wise, because I have my memories because I used to go down there, but most of our listeners don't. Can you talk a little bit about what you remember seeing graffiti wise in '87, that yard or just the whole city as a whole?
I think graffiti was just part of the landscape of Los Angeles at the time. I think there was a lot of, and there's a lot of crack. There was a lot of gangs. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of racism. There was a lot of, kind of at least how I came into the streets. Every corner you turn, every person you see is probably going to be an obstacle that you're going to have to figure out how to get around, up, over, and through, because nobody was going to give you a pass for free. You couldn't just walk up and paint a wall and nobody was going to say anything. You were going to be tested. You were going to be tried. And if you didn't pass, you were going to be executed, because it was that type of time. It was those type of era where like you will get today. The problem with the sport that I'm into, which is graffiti, is people don't get socked up enough. You know what I mean? It's just really, if people would take action more on their words and people were, there's people that just are afraid of conflict, but they want to go all the way to that point.
Right.
The difference between that, now I'm pondering, next year, the end of next year will be my 30 years that I'll be in CBS crew. I got in 1988, the end of 88. And that's literally changed the whole landscape.
Landscape of your life. Yeah.
Of my life has totally changed. It totally went a direction that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Did I realize when I was living in India, when I was looking up in space and imagining where my life was going to go? Did I think I was going to do this?
Sure.
No, not really, but
yeah.
Once I came to LA, once I saw what I saw, once I knew that it was, that you had to be a tough, character to get through all these obstacles, then I realized that maybe I was ready for that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And even
it's interesting you mentioned certain things, like you're 14 and you said it was part of the landscape, that there was graffiti, there were gangs, there was racism. And I wonder if like you were drawn to it, or if parts of all of that was a turnoff, or you were just down for it all because like you said, I think you were ready for it, but did you want it?
I think like any kid, man, like you're scared. You know what I mean? Like literally like Robert De Niro is right in Taxi Driver or Taxi or whatever that is, when he's looking in the mirror and he's like, "You're talking to me? Are you talking to me?" Like I did that shit. I sat in the mirror and I posturized myself and I looked and I made sure my my dickies were clean and my hair was braided and I was sagging enough, and I was like, all right, cool, like I'm ready to go out. And what because what was I gonna have to do when I walked out of my house? When I walked a few blocks down the street, I was gonna have a car roll up and they were gonna say, "Where are you from?" And if I didn't fucking have a good way of interacting with that "where you from," I was going to get lit up in many different ways. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that's just walking out of your house. Then you want to go catch tags. Then you want to go to a yard. Right. Then you want to go rack paint. You know what I mean? Then you want to go do all the things that make you become something that you're admiring at first, and then you transcend and become part of, it's fabric,
Right.
And that's how I look at myself this many years later. I'm just like, hey, I'm just part of this fabric. You know what I mean? I'm just
that's a really great
part of
way
this
to put
culture,
it, man, because we all are. We're all like a thread in this big quilt or this big tapestry. So, I had asked about what it looked like in LA, and you said there was literally a yard in your backyard. What was it? What yard?
I think they called it the spot was an automotive place called Best and Fast. And there was a few different crews that used to paint there. And one of them was like, I think at the time they were called TOTC. And if I'm not mistaken, probably some of the early LTS guys like Sinner and some Cirque and some of these other cats.
Nice. Okay.
I have some old Polaroids of times when I didn't know what graffiti was, except for like what I had seen in like Thrasher magazine. But I had pictures of their graffiti in my back alley but not taking pictures of graffiti, just taking pictures of something that was on the wall. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
it really didn't have the same tone that it has for me now. You know?
Yeah, of course. And you were still a kid trying to figure things out.
Correct.
You know, I'm interested in, because you mentioned a couple names, TOTC and LTS. Did you understand at that time that those were crews of guys, or was it still kind of a mystery and you had to learn about it in those early days?
It definitely was still a mystery. I was still learning about it. I was kind of just right in my neighborhood. I was skating a lot, you know what I mean? And then I was meeting other skaters, but the thing that we shared in common beyond the four wheels on a wooden deck was that we were kind of all into graph. You know what I mean? For some reason, we were all like picking a name. We were all, you know, admiring some of the same guys that were up in the streets, you know? And so we all started to talk another language beyond skating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we started to get along on some other terms. And I started, I met this guy that lived over, and he was, that's 10 blocks away. The people that I knew, you know, 5 months ago, they were 4 blocks away. So every month, every week, every day was a way to kind of further my adventures of going into the city and going further out. And like I said, every morning I would be like, wow, this is going to be an adventure today. You never done this, but you did something like this where you adventured to other parts of the world, you know, and you were able to survive that. Why are you not going to be okay surviving in the streets of Los Angeles?
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I had gone through a lot of bullshit already in my life to get me to the point to be in LA. I felt like, let's do this, you know? And a lot of things happened to me in LA that like, I'm not, you know, like that built me into wanting to put myself out there a lot more, wanting to, like I said, like I'm that type of guy that I'm okay if there's a knuckles to be had, then I'm into it. You know what I mean? If it's a debate and we can figure this out logistically through words, I'm okay with that too. But like I said, graffiti's gone into this place where everybody just has a lot of bark and there ain't a lot of bite.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, there's so many factors that add into that, like the internet and a bunch of other things. But I think back then, there wasn't that. The internet, the chat room was face to face back then, and sometimes on the walls, but it always ended up.
You know what? What our chat room was? It was called going to a yard, getting caught slipping, fucking by not having enough people at the yard when some other crew was a little bit deeper. Those dudes had fucking bats, and you either fucking stood your ground and took a beating, and they picked you back up, which was classic. Yeah, I've seen tons of people be solid fucking dudes and fight and just grab the dude's hand, pick him up, hug him, and it's over and it's done.
I heard a quote the other day. I was watching this Netflix documentary about these war photographers. It's called Five Came Back, and one of these famous film directors in it, he got into a fight. This is way back in the day. He got into a fight with Clark Gable, and they were talking about this. And he has some quote. I'm going to botch it, but he basically said the best way to become friends with another man is to fight him, and that's been my experience too. It's so weird. The guys that have punched me in the face or that I've punched back, many of them, not all of them, many of them became lifelong friends, which I think is like real. I mean, it's some primal, it goes way back in our DNA about that, you know, but it also speaks volumes when you stand up for yourself, take a licking, and just are still there, you know? So I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think,
I mean, like you got to picture LA as the modern Roman gladiator arenas. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I came into when I came to LA.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great description.
When I woke up in the morning, the news would be on and I'd see what was going on from last night, and it would just be, you know, fools getting bucked, you know, this dude getting stabbed. This is a gang violence is at an all-time high. Right. And I was lacing up my shoes. You know what I mean? I was putting on my shoes. When I went out, if I wasn't wearing the right type of shoes, there was probably going to be something that happened. You know what I mean? if some Crips rolled by and I was wearing some fucking, and it did happen. Like, I got jacked for my shoes. I've had Crips roll up and say, "Take off your motherfucking shoes, homie," and just take them and throw them up on a roof, and I'm just sitting there barefoot.
Yep.
Like, fuck, this is embarrassing. People are, and not one of my homies was there for me. You know what I mean? Nobody. What are you gonna say?
Right.
You're not gonna challenge. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, we were kids, and to have some big ass Crip roll up to you and some other dudes and they're just like, "Yeah, homie, like, matter of fact, you're getting jacked for your fucking kicks."
Yeah,
and I'm like,
you just gotta like know your place. Yeah, I've been there too.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. You mentioned that you got into CBS in '88, but in '87, you said you first started writing, and you had mentioned that Axit or Scribbler was maybe one of the first graffiti guys that you knew. How did you come upon your first tag or your first name, and what were some of the moments that led up to that?
Well, I think I wrote a couple different names before I wrote Anger. I want to say that probably my first name was Sad Boy.
Yeah,
Sad
Boy, I like that.
And that's a super kind of blocky, almost suicidal tendency wannabe letters. My first marker that I racked was the Magnum's 44s, and it was from Standard Brands. And one of the writers that I looked up to, which was he's a legend in Los Angeles, which was Minor from WCA. He worked at the Standard Brands right around the corner from my house. So, like, literally, like, if I was standing in my apartment looking out of my bedroom window, I could look over and I could see Standard Brands. Okay. So I could obviously walk kitty corner from my house, walk in and, roam through the aisles and, come up on something.
Right.
So one day I see him and he's looking at me and he's got his Standard Brands, uniform on, but he's like looking at me like, "Go ahead, homie. Like, I know what you're trying to do and I got you." And he gave me like a little carte blanche to rack some shit. I can't remember if I met him a little bit before that. Like, I met him at the park. He was doing some sober class. You know what I mean? Some shit like that. He used to drive around in a big old station wagon that was all painted up with stencils and all that type of shit, blasting metal. You know what I mean? Like, he was not a hip hop guy. He was a straight Slayer, Metallica, punk rock, more in that genre of music. And I think that was very prevalent, at least for the people that I hung out with and I was associating with.
Yeah, and a lot of that went hand in hand with the skate culture, all that kind of music. So I've heard that. We've heard it a lot in a lot of our interviews, the same thing. And it was interesting you mentioned that you knew of some graffiti through Thrasher magazine. I just want to make that as a note because so many people found graph through skate culture, which I think is just cool. It's awesome. But you had the chance to know some writers like Minor, like Axis. Also, how did you come up on Sad Boy? Like, where do you get a name like Sad Boy? How'd that happen?
Probably early teenage angst. You know what I mean? Feeling displacement, feeling like that things are pitted against you. So I think I wrote sad, and it was a prequel to Anger in a sense because it was like Sad Boy, and I think I wrote Derelict. For a quick second, and then I think I transferred over to Anger, which was kind of easy. I had there was like a truck in the back of my alley, and there was an old Rob tag on there, and Rob One used to write Ager, so that was kind of like how I got started by looking at his name. Well, looking at just the style of letter, the style of tags that you were trying to emulate was a lot easier to emulate back then. Sure. Because people weren't so fucking crazy and taking a million strokes to do an S. You know what I mean? Like, an S was very simple. It was very blocky up at the top and basic. Yeah, it was basic. So to take Ager, to get anger was kind of easy. And like I said, I had, kind of a suicidal, more punk rock type of style. And then eventually started to develop and get hand styles because I was pushed to do that, because that's the right thing to do. You like, before this, recording started, we said, man, like people don't put enough into the basics of graffiti.
Yeah.
And that's why they think they should transcend so quickly.
Right.
Cause like these kids don't get out and tag, and I had this, what we mentioned earlier, the Graffiti Wolves thing. After this many years of being in graffiti, man, I felt like and I see it a lot, man. I see a lot of people giving up on graffiti, literally just like dropping it. Like, I don't want to be part of this, and I don't want to hashtag graffiti next to my stuff. And I don't like the negative. And I'm just like, man, like it's all one big creative culture. You know what I mean? There's going to be positives and negatives to it. But if you just give up on it, what's the point? Why did we work so hard to get this far if people are just going to drop off? Yeah. And that's where I came up with Graffiti Wolves. My thing about Graffiti Wolves is I felt like people are scared to say the word, right? And I didn't want to do that. When I put something on a shirt, I wanted it to scream graffiti right away, because I wanted people to know where it came from, what its origin was. And also when I was putting kids down on the crew, because now it's a crew of 10 or 15 guys all around the country, I wanted them to be proud of doing graffiti first and foremost. And I wanted them to know if they were ever going to get in CBS, the only thing they ever need to do, the only prereq, is to do graffiti. That's the only thing you fucking got to do. Right. Shut your mouth, do graffiti, you'll do just fine, And the other part of that is fucking look out for your people. Even if you're not bonded by letters, have that pack mentality. If you see somebody struggling, pick them up. You know what I mean? Help them out, because that's what this culture should be about, not about how you can cut your homie out of a deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. I see that way too much these days. And I feel like people aren't looking for the long distance run. They're looking for the short distance. Yep, I'm running 50 meters and I'm going to be done. And I'm like, dude, I've been running for 30 years. What are you talking about? I'm motherfucking Tom Hanks with a big ass beard. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, and marathon mentality versus sprint tech mentality is like something I think about a lot, because we live in a society that is it's instantaneous. People get gratification fast, To finish that tangent, Adam, I'm sorry. I just wanted to finish the Graffiti Wolves thing. This one kid, he had a name, and the name it was Mad. You know what I mean? And I was like, you got this girl, she writes Mad C. You got this other Mad. Da da da. I don't think that name's gonna work. And so I was going through with him, just trying to give him names that he'd like, letters and da 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 da. And back when I was a kid and coming up and doing graffiti, even before I did graffiti, when I was just skating, I used to write Radical Re, and I always thought Radical was a cool name. Yeah. So I told the kid, I know there's probably some other radicals out there, but I told the kid, I was like, yo, you're from LA, you're gonna have other people out there, there's other angers out there. I'm aware of that. I was like, just rock, homie, just kill it. But like, dude, and he's just kind of getting his feet, his wheels underneath him, and I was just like, dude, you want to start out with a good script. You don't want people to be like questioning you right away because you write a name that they're familiar with somebody else writing it, Yeah. And so if you write, and he writes Rad, and he's been getting up all over fucking LA, like, so he's doing his thing. But I just said, hey, all I want you to do is catch tags, dude. I was like, if you catch tags for the first 3-4 months and then just transfer into everything else, dude, you're gonna get so much more props from people and he's sticking with it. That's like constant marker tags. Like, nice. I'm just like, dude, you're killing. And his styles are getting better and better and better. And then like people are showing, like, he'll go out and he'll do something, but then he'll be like, oh, well, I had to experiment and I had to do it. And like, he has a kid and all that shit, but he's out there risking his fucking, his riches for craft. You know what I mean? And he's willing to like, listen, put a plan together, go out there and execute that plan and make the people before you proud of what you're doing and do it the right way instead of going out there and, like you said, hyping up just to do a fucking a burner on a wall.
Yeah.
A burner on the wall came from all these other steps before it that make it what it really is, you know? And you know when a wall is done by somebody that doesn't have that backbone. You know what I mean? They don't have all the vertebrae in their backbone to be able to hold that wall together.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's true.
Yeah, it's pieced together by them looking, oh, this guy does this. Oh, that guy does this. And it's you know, what street art is. You know what I mean? It's just patchwork, you know? It's just recreation of the same imagery. And that's, you know, easy to do. You know, there's a computer, you click a button.
Appropriate stuff from other people. Yeah.
I really love seeing people. I love my type of graffiti is that I love when people do their name and they do it always different. You know what I mean? Like see a lot of people and all they're doing is a print style and they're just doing like, I'm doing this a million times. And even if you just shift your ease a little bit, you go higher case, lower case, you know, you do it backwards, you do it upside down, whatever. I think that's better than just going and doing the same lettering over and over
you're
again.
Pushing, you know, you're trying to progress something, you know.
Even if something looks dumb, even if something you're like, because I've done some letters recently where I'm like, fuck, I don't know if this is gonna look good. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, I'll try it though, because then I'll put it out there because what's the worst that it's gonna do? Somebody's gonna judge it. Well, great. I've been judged my whole life. You know what I mean? I'm used to that.
And you know, I told a lot of people, like, keep moving. It doesn't matter if you're moving back or sideways or forward. Just don't stand still. Don't be still. Always move. Moving back sometimes is really good. I painted a piece yesterday that I first sketched it in 2014, and I did it one time. I didn't do it well, so I did it yesterday and had more room to stretch it out. I also had a little bit more time to have perspective on it. Came out dope, and I was like, oh wow. And I was telling another friend, it's like our black books are like a wine cellar, you know, and it's like it is okay to grab an old bottle of wine and pull it out, especially one you never did before. Put it on a wall. So now I'm going to pull you back because I'm glad we got the analogy about the wolves thing, because I think that is important and that pack mentality is important. My question about 88 was like how you got put down into CBS and what were the moments that led up to that introduction or that inclusion.
Well, 88 was I think I'd spent like the beginning of 88 up until the end of the year kind of really getting into, you know, looking at Style Wars, looking at subway art, you know, sitting down, trying to sketch things and trying to figure out lettering, figure out my place in lettering. And, honestly, like I wasn't having that much of a success.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I was kind of, I think if, the French would have called me toi, you know what I mean? I was kind of toy, you know?
Of course. You have to be. You have to be.
But you know, I believe I have something that's irreplaceable, which is heart. You know what I mean? Which is energy. Which is you know, something that can never be replaced. You know,
it makes up for a lot. It definitely does.
Right, and I feel like that's what I bring to the table, and that's what I think Skate saw in me is what he was. He was a self-driven person. He was, you know. When I met him, he was at the top of his game.
Was that 88?
That was 88 into 89. I would say I probably met him like the end of 88, closing of the year, you know, because I think it was the holidays.
Okay, I'm just assuming you'd seen Skate's work around town before you met him. Yeah.
Yes.
Because that guy was a real force.
He was. He was a real force, but that, you know, I think at that time, or just what I was able to kind of consume at that point, like CBS crew, although wasn't that big of a crew at that time when I got it. You know, if you were gonna do what a lot of people do today, which is ride a wave, I would have been like I want to be on that BC wave. I want to be on that WCA wave. there was a bunch of different crews that were top tier crews, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
Even
okay.
though graffiti was just very young then, there was still, the cream of the crop type of deal.
Okay.
Skate had taken over CBS in a sense because the guys that started it were done with graph and they wanted to move on, and I think a lot of them were banging actually, or just getting on with their mature lives. Like I remember meeting this dude Demo, who started one of the forefathers of CBS, and he was just working at Ralph's. You know what I mean? And he was just like, man, I'm trying to fucking feed my family. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think graph at that point, there wasn't no cash value in it. You know what I mean?
Who were the first founding guys besides Demo that started CBS?
So it was Demo, Theory, and Frost, and then Hex, but not the one from TGO. Right. There's and UTI, which respect to him, but Hex from CBS is also from LOD, which is Lokes on Dope, which is another original Los Angeles crew. Mm-hmm. And those four guys basically started CBS crew in like 84, 85-ish at Hollywood High. And then by the time I caught up with Hex, he wasn't really pushing CBS. He was pushing this crew called UNT, which was the Untouchables. Mm-hmm. And that crew was a small little crew of just this dude Mosh, Volt, Hex, and Sleaze. If they had other members, I think it was like one or two other guys. Okay. But UNT then over in '89 at some point, very quickly they became LOD.
Okay. UNT turned into LOD.
Right. Skate was part of LOD. Those were some of his homies. Those were people that he kind of, at that time, because CBS was young, he tried to tie us in with a lot of the other crews that I spoke about, which were those top tier crews.
And so how did you meet these guys?
Skate or the other guys?
I guess, who was your first connection to CBS?
That would have came through this guy Crook. Crook went to Fairfax High, and then my boy Tren, who lived in my neighborhood, and I skated with him. He got kicked out of Hamilton High School, and he got transferred over to Fairfax. Okay. And then so he started hanging out with Crook, and Crook at that time was one of the few members that was from CBS, but he was like the president of CBS. Like his job was to basically recruit people to CBS. So Tren was one of the guys that he recruited, and then Tren brought along with him, myself, his buddy Zinc and Bias, Axis, and then there were a few other people, Link and Xer, that were actually Crook's buddies, and we all kind of got together one night at Fairfax High bleachers, and that's where we had our meetings from that point forward, actually. And we all got on with the crew that night and kind of just went out there and started terrorizing. You know what I mean? Trying to do the best we could to.
And were you writing Anger when you first met them?
Correct. Yes.
And so then, we talked a little bit about how you transitioned, like Sad Boy was like a prequel, you said, to Anger, but when you had also mentioned the other tags that you had been seeing, but like, what was it? Clearly you must have been angry. What was there any other reason that you were like, yeah, Anger, that's something I'm going to write? Also, were you concerned that there might be another Anger in LA when you first started writing it, or no?
I don't. The answer to the last question, which was if I was worried about another Anger, I don't think at that point we were thinking that far ahead. Yeah. We were kind of playing checkers at that point. Mm-hmm. I think the game of chess came in a little bit later, maybe within 5 years. Yeah. Kind of, gaining knowledge, gaining ground, wanting to know if you're the only one, wanting to know if you're the best, having some self-doubt or self-validity all those things come into play as you start to transition into being the person that you're going to become, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think I picked the name Anger. Yeah, it's definitely angry, man. I definitely went through a lot of bullshit in the traveling that I did to bring me to Los Angeles.
Right.
I think there was a lot of hurdles that I had to overcome to get to that point. And I think it was my job at that point to kind of put myself in a position. I mean, first and foremost, like, what am I getting into? I'm getting into a sport where aggression is okay. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
where
it's encouraged. Yeah.
It's encouraged. Yeah. And, like when I got into graffiti, I wasn't getting into it for pretty colors.
Right.
Like straight up, I wasn't. I wasn't thinking about piecing. I wasn't thinking about, oh my God, I can't wait to rock this character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you wanted to fuck shit up.
I can't wait. I can't wait for all those juicy fucking Belton 94 cans or Cobra cans to come out.
Right. No. Yeah.
Nah, like I was fucking writing on a wall with whatever I had. I was scratching in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
I was I was taking a rock to scribe. And that's, like people today just take I know us old fogies always say it, but it is true. You take it for granted to just go buy your scriber.
Yeah. True. We had to
make
them.
The way we got
everything.
the way we got our fat caps was different. The way we got our paint and what we got was different. How we made our masteries was different.
Yeah,
took a lot more time.
Yeah, man, all of that. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I hear people get down on that and how kids don't have to deal with it, and I'm like, well, that's true, except that's just the way of the world. You and I would have these clunky computers in our schools. Now every kid has an iPhone that is just like lightning fast. I mean, it's just like that's just progress, right? But I appreciate that honesty that you just wanted to fuck shit up. I remember the exact same thing when I first started bus hopping in San Francisco. We just wanted to fuck shit up, and we did, And so now I'm interested in 15-year-old Anger from CBS Crew, like new identity, completely assumed, and just like bolster, like fortified by a crew, right? Which must have given you, and actually just tell me about it. That night when you got put down in CBS, how'd you feel?
I felt like I had won the lottery. I felt like I wanted to go out and just collectively. I felt like I always wanted to be there for my crew members. That's what I felt like I've been throughout the years, throughout the decades. You know what I mean? It's just somebody. I don't think I'm just there for my crew members. I think I'm there for guys in graffiti just in general. I have a lot of friends that aren't CBS members from other crews, you know what I mean? And other people that I hang out with and bounce ideas off of and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I was ready for what LA had to offer, and I felt like I was aligning myself with people that were willing to protect and come to my aid if I needed that at that time. And to rewind the story, when I had gotten jacked for my shoes and had to walk home barefoot. I ended up like Skate was from, he was from a neighborhood, from a gang called Scandals, and Scandals was part of an enclave of different gangs that didn't get along with these West Side gangs. And I had gotten my shoes jacked on the West Side, and one of the guys, not the Crip dude, but the other dude was from a gang that we didn't get along with, or they didn't get along with. So then right off the bat, like I was like, fuck, I love this because now I get to get back at the people that jacked me for my shoes. And I get to have somebody protect who doesn't want a protector. I mean, that's kind of how I felt. Like I felt like, hey, dude, there's this big ass motherfucker. His name's Skate. He knows a bunch of fucking people all around LA, and he's willing to fucking show. Like the first thing I saw from him and my buddy Creeper Ilya was about a week before we had gotten into CBS. We were picking up our homies from Beverly Hills High School, and Beverly Hills High School is known to have a lot of Persians there.
Okay.
And some shit had happened. I forget how it all went down, but basically we ended up in a fucking full-on brawl in the middle of the street in Beverly Hills with a bunch of Persians, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, you literally chains being pulled out and fucking
Damn.
bats and all this bullshit, and fools are just fighting in the street, right? So like that shit goes down, and then like within that week, Trent's like, yeah, man, like I think we should all get into this crew. Da 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 da. I've been talking with Crook. You know what I mean? Like they want me to get in, but I want you to get in too, and I want to bring all you guys in. Like you guys are my brothers. You know what I mean? Like we were all skate rats together, and he wanted to make sure that energy was transferred into this. And maybe like the name CBS wasn't that big at the time, but maybe like the adage "can't be stopped" meant a lot more. You know what I mean? Like to put that behind as a last name to your anger, to your trend, to your whoever. Put the name. Any name works. You know what I mean? You know, you just put the name there. Siri can't be stopped.
Right.
You know, so it just gives you a good propulsion to push you into the universe.
That's fresh.
To push you into the world.
Just so I can be clear, did getting into CBS put you into Scandals or no?
No, that happened. Well, basically, what happened is within that week, I said we got into that fight. We were going up into the Beverly Center. All of a sudden, we see these guys that we got into a fight with. And we see Skate and Ilya at the top of the escalators, and literally it's like they chase these dudes down, they fuck them up. Ilya does this big flying kick into this dude's chest, and he's just like, yo, Skate's like, these are my boys, tell everybody if you fuck with them, you're fucking with, this just like put them on check, he's like, let the streets know. Let the streets, everybody fucking know, He's yelling at them on the fucking 6th floor of the Beverly Center fucking parking lot, and his voice is fucking, resounding in the parking lot, how it does, echoing in the parking lot, and I'm just like, fuck, fool, this fool just fucked these fools up, and he's chasing them down to their cars and letting them know, like, don't fuck with my little homies. I got their back. Well, why wouldn't you align yourself with somebody that just did that for you?
Right.
In a time and period where toughness is what gets you through the day, why wouldn't you want some other tougher, older guys to show you how to be tough?
Yep, absolutely. So, Skate, rest in peace. I think it'd be really interesting for you to just talk a little bit more about him, since I actually haven't heard enough about Skate, and I think that's a shame. Can you just talk a little bit about that young Skate, or at that time the Skate that you just met?
Well, I'll quote my buddy Bleak, Bleak is the director and the guy that came out with, we put together with a lot of other people. We recently put out Can't Be Stopped movie. And what Can't Be Stopped the movie was, it doesn't tell Skate's whole story, but it tells a lot about him and a lot about the person that it was. And it has a lot of different people, that grew up around him, that looked up to him, that, they all are in the movie. So that's one of Bleak's big quotes. It's in the movie, man. It's all in the movie.
Since you're bringing up the movie and we're kind of getting near our time for this section of the interview, like what was the impulse to make the movie? Like why do it now?
I was kind of going to get to that. Thank you. You know what? I didn't want anybody to tell a story that didn't happen. I know what I lived through. I know what CBS Crew was in its beginning. I knew what it grew into within every 5 years, every transference of people coming in or leaving, just like our breaths of fresh air. There's carbon dioxide that we have to release. That's also my theory on what a crew is. You know what I mean? It's not always meant to hold all of the oxygen that we breathe in, No, and so throughout the last 30 years of my life, 1993, everything changed for me. I went from 88, 89 hanging out with Skate, and then we went through the riots in Los Angeles, and after that, fucking Skate passed away, and my life, completely went another direction, which was trying to figure out how to like kind of put the pieces back together and what CBS crew had gained between, my time being in it from 88 until that time when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that to be carried on.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember, I'm Anger from Can't Be Stopped crew.
There you go.
That means I carry the weight of fucking 30 years of CBS crew, 30 years of doing graffiti in Los Angeles, 30 years of being part of the, like we said, the fabric of graffiti across this nation.
And another level is that you carry the weight of maybe the what skate could be doing. I think about that from my fallen friends that I've written with, and it's like,
for sure.
I write for them, and
for sure.
So anyway, and I was going to ask you about the movie. Like, I can't make it to Asheville or Minnesota. I'm in Brooklyn. I mean, I'm not even going to get into why you're not coming to New York City.
We're coming. We're coming.
Good.
Yeah, we're coming. I'm actually, we have a couple people looking at things, but the one that I'm really interested in comes through Keo.
Okay. Perfect.
And so, he's connected, X-Men, FC.
Yep, of course.
He actually is I won't get into it, but basically he hung out in Hollywood with Skate. You know what I mean? He used to write, he used to write Scotch 79, and he's really a big influence to Skate. And so one of my big things is making sure that I make it out to the East Coast and that we show it in somewhere out there.
Yeah, I think it's important that you come here too, which is a mecca for graph, because
hell yeah,
a lot of people actually don't know CBS and will be impressed to learn about it. So, but the other question I had is there a way for people to watch the movie in their home? Like, can you stream it? Can you pay to stream it online somewhere?
We're working on getting some distribution right now.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it seems like it should just be on Netflix now. Netflix, are you listening? Like, pick up this movie. Right?
Yeah, we're in some talks with some different distribution companies.
Great.
And we're trying to get it onto that level where we do have it streaming, but we're also right now in the middle of taking it to theaters. And from what I've heard, from different directors and stuff like that, you can, at these days and times, you can actually have them flowing on both
platforms,
on both levels. Yeah, you could have it on streaming, but people sometimes, because of a movie and the nostalgia of it, people want to see it in the theaters.
Oh, absolutely.
They actually rub each other's backs in that sense,
I think so. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But also, we're graffiti artists, and it takes a little longer to get to that destination because we're just learning the lay of the land.
Sure.
We actually we won an award a couple weeks ago for the Cape Film Festival out here in Santa Monica.
Congratulations. That's great.
So that's big. I mean, I don't know if there's any graph, film. Well, there probably is some awards for different graph films. I'm not aware of them. We were really ecstatic. My buddy Bleak. My buddy Bleak is traveling with the movie right now, and really we want to just get it out there in the theaters as much as we can.
Yeah.
But in the background, we're working it to get the distribution, to get some people to help manage it, because it's a big fucking deal. Like I work all day, you know what I mean? And then Bleak does all this work on the side and getting all these, booking all these movie theaters and working out all the paperwork and all that stuff. It's a full-time job,
And since a lot of our listeners may not know you, where can they find your work, whether it's a website or your Instagram or Facebook? What channels are you using?
Pretty much only myself. I'm only on Instagram. So Anger Can't Be Stopped on Instagram. Do you
have a site for your work, or any other place?
I'm not a professional artist in any sense, but a lot of my work comes out on CBS Crew on Instagram. Okay. And then we have can'tbestoppedthemovie.com.
Great.
And that's where you can go and check in on anything that has to do with the movie, places where we're going to be playing. If you want to buy any merchandise, all that stuff and information is available on that website.
Elias, Seneca, White Crow, Anger, CBS, Siri Kalsa. Dude, I'm real thankful that we got to carve out the time to do this. And we only started to touch it. We just touched getting into CBS. Yes. So I look forward to down the road, we'll get together again and pick up where we left off. But I'm glad that we got to get a little dose of Los Angeles finally on this podcast. Thanks again. This has been great.
And the classic photo that I think of with you and is TJ, right? When we were painting out there, I think it was GraphCon?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And it was that big dirt lot. And I have this picture of you, and it's you and Neon and Aura.
Apex. Oh, yes.
Apex is not in the photo, but it's you. It's you three. Yeah. And that's the one photo that, like, whenever as we're talking right now, that's my reference of you. That's the last time I saw you, maybe even. You know?
Yeah, dude. That's cool, man. Wow. Yeah, that's taking me back. And actually, Neon was just talking about that trip down to Tijuana. So that's, right. That's cool, man, that you have that memory, dude. It's been a while.
Yep.
Listen, man.
I was on my best behavior down there, right?
Yeah, you were, dude. I don't remember you being wild. You weren't wilding out at all, man. You were cool. Everybody else was wild, dude, but Anger was kind of chill.
It's always everybody else. It's never me.
Listen, man, this has been great, and thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate it too, man. Have a good night.
Thanks for listening to another episode of My Life in Letters. We record live in Bushwick, Brooklyn, USA. Our producer is Christopher Piccioni. Our social media manager is Jonathan Drexler. Our videographer is Jordan Milkner for Way Up Creative. Our intern is Tamika Schlesinger. Our theme music is by Fonte. And my name is Adam Fujita. If you guys have got something to say, drop us a line at our Instagram page at My Life in Letters Podcast, or send us an email at mylifeinletterspodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for your feedback, and we're always looking for ways to grow and be better. Write a review on iTunes or Google Play. Share the podcast with your friends. Get your whole crew to subscribe, and have a great day. Thanks for listening.
The language of letters.